Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and we are beginning to see some signs of fall. School is starting this week, so we are doing a challenge called Signs of Fall. I had these 3 pieces of barn board out in my yard, really kind of worse for wear, but I cleaned them up and I painted one in this roasted squash and one in this pre-mixed latex color in a deep tan that I got at my dump on the good table. Someone had left 5 different buckets. They must have been attempting to find the color they wanted and left me the 5 they didn't. So I will take that every time. And then I have this gorgeous color called Silver Sage that I use now and again on this channel. It was a room color, so it's a leftover latex paint, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. So I painted one board in each of those colors. The pumpkin and the tan took 2 coats. That Silver Sage is so thick, that just took 1. And then once these were dry, I wanted to go ahead and give them a good sand, specifically around the edges and to round off the corners because they're very square and I wanted them to look more like a sign. So I've treated all 3 of them the same. And now I am going to do something very different with each one for this challenge. And I'll tell you more about the challenge in a minute. But starting with the first board, which is the tan one, I had this gorgeous fruit transfer I bought from Prima Redesign, and I've used it all spring and summer, and I had 1 left. I wanted to save the apple one for fall, so I decided, since obviously this is a much different size than the board that I'm using, that I'm going to cut it up in bits and pieces, and I am going to use it on this board, and then I'm going to add a couple more things to it and see as I go along. But I'm going to start by cutting one corner on the left bottom and then 1 corner on the top right. I want this board to look like it had been hanging at an apple farm for years. So that is kind of the feel that I'm going to go with here. You'll have to let me know if I succeed. So then I am going to cut out the word apple, and then I'm going to cut out the apples and some of the beautiful florals to go with it. Now, the fact that it has a tan background works in my favor, but I have to cut some of the straight edges off and just use some of the pieces here and there to make them a little bit more organic, like it was painted on some time ago. And most of you have probably used a transfer or have certainly seen transfers used by now. I think with a latex paint, they stick very well, but it's a good idea to let the paint dry overnight, which I have done. And when you rub that, I personally catch an air bubble. I find that if you can see it here, it's just so much easier than to sit there rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. And then you can burnish it with your hand, or you can burnish it with the plastic piece just to get the edges to really be well seated, and then go from there. So I'm just kind of laying this out in my mind as I think a sign would look if it was at the farm. And I don't have what I think I have in my stash, or I can't find it once I get to the right side. So I have to improvise just a little bit. But that's the fun of crafting. Now this section here, I wanted to make sure I covered up the leaf that only had half a leaf on that with another piece of the flower, and then making that look complete. And then the little bits and pieces that are left almost have a more almost black and white feel to them. So I just put them kind of spreading the whole detail in the center out. I wanted to push that and make it a little bit longer looking, since to begin with it was an 8.5 by 11. So that was sort of the whole idea behind filling in most of this sign. And then once I get that finished, I went through my stash looking for what I thought I had, which were some large numbers for stamps for my IOD set, and actually it only came with letters, so I had to get creative. But I found these stickers that I had purchased once upon a time from the dollar store, and I thought these could work. They are very sticky, and so I put that down and then, you know, trimmed it to fit to make it look like I needed it to, but obviously I didn't have anything to say 25 cents, so then I just used a marker. I could have painted it black, but either way, I knew I was going to sand over this, so I just took a Sharpie to add that. And then it was looking altogether too new, especially the edges of the transfer. So I took my finger sander and I sanded the whole thing. The black did run from the stickers, but I was able to just wipe that right off. And then once I got that really good and kind of distressed looking, I took out the antique wax mixed with clear wax that is drying up and was a little bit hard to use. I am going to have to fix that. But I just took a rag and sort of rubbed that in and around to make that definitely look more aged. I love how I took a new 8.5 by 11 and made it look like an old sign. Let me know what you think. And then this challenge is hosted by Amanda with 6 kids and a glue gun and Brenda at Rustic and Lace DIY. And this month their co-host is Chantel from Crafty Hints. Their information is in the description box as well as the playlist of other creators, so check them all out. Moving on to this second sign, which is the roasted squash colored sign. I had a lot of little pieces left over from a rice paper decoupage that I had purchased online probably last year, and I wanted to use that up. And I also wanted to use the Farmhouse font IOD stamps. So I just put the word pumpkins on my thin set here, and then got those set the way that I wanted to, so they'd be nice and even. And then this is very helpful because it has all the lines on it. And then using what I thought was my Stays On ink, and I put the black ink on the sign. And then I wanted this to be real rustic again, so I took that sander and I just went ahead and I just sanded through some of that because the edges of the sign already look aged. I took some water on a paintbrush, went around the edges of this tissue paper tissue paper decoupage, and I ripped them out because I just like that look a lot better. You can certainly cut them out. If you don't want any white to show, if I didn't have any white on the edges or peeking through the sign, I probably would have just cut them out, but since I did, a little bit on the edge didn't bother me. So once I have those done and decoupage down where I want them, I wanted to distress or age this sign. And since it's raining, I decoupaged over the entire sign to protect it. I feel like that ink ran and then realized that it wasn't my Stays On ink. It was a cheaper brand that I had used. So I'll have to remember if I ever want that to wait a good long time before I antique or sand. So anyways, once I have this completely done and antique waxed and the decoupage paper is on there, it looks cute, but I feel like it is missing a little bit of something. And I went into my stash because I had this really adorable little metal pumpkin off of something last year, and I wanted to use that. So I decided to just cut some strips of burlap and some of that lace from the dollar store and a little bit of black and white ribbon that I had from the dollar store as well, and just tie that together with some jute and then add that little cute pumpkin to the middle of that. And once I got that done, I just sort of cut that around the edges and glued that onto the right top corner, and that was it for this sign. I think that this came out cute for a very traditional look. That's not my style, but this one is. This beautiful third sign, this silver sage color, I love. And I went out to Pinterest and I looked for free fall printables. and I found this absolutely beautiful pumpkin. You do have to give your email address to get this, but otherwise it is free. This person painted this and it is absolutely gorgeous. One of the most beautiful pumpkins I have seen out there, so that was fine by me. So I have that on one side and decoupaged that on so quick, so easy, so gorgeous. I am already so in love with it. Then I did go ahead and finish Mod Podging the entire sign so that the finish would be the same everywhere, but also to give that a good protective coat. It does have a little bit of a shine, even though it says matte finish, but I don't really mind that. This could at some point end up in the elements. And then I have this metal harvest sign. I got a pack of 3 at the dollar store. I think a year or two ago, probably 3, it could even be 3 years ago. But I have wanted to use this harvest sign, so I took out the white chalked paint and painted this so that the whole theme could stay green and white. And it did take 3 good coats of this Annie Sloan white chalk paint to cover the metal. This I am going to have to wait and spray with a poly coat because it is chalk paint and it could scratch, especially being on metal. So I want to make sure that is well protected. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and either nail or screw this onto the sign so it's more permanent. So I'm going to find a way to attach that. And these 3 fall signs are done. So you will have to let me know which of them are your favorite. Absolutely, the third one is mine. It goes so nicely with a number of pumpkins and the basket that I painted last year, as well as a couple of signs that I have gotten at, I believe, Hobby Lobby. But anyway, I do love this third one, but please let me know what you think. Don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box to see what the other creators have made, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.